Aren't you lucky? You have joined us here at the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. I'm Rob Simpson, sitting across upstairs with Vishal Vatura, who's very happy with his facial hair. Down in the opposing corner, we put the foreigners. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a foreigner. We're all foreigners. I was going to say we put the Australian down below with the Zimbabwean. I don't know what that means exactly because we're not talking about mining or anything today. Or
it means we're playing cricket.
Or catching snakes. We're talking about Diagnos, which is really incredibly fascinating, to be quite honest. A company based in Quebec and is on the Toronto Venture Exchange as ADK.V. And Chris Perry is going to tell us a little bit. Just got done talking to these guys, which we'll see, and really interesting.
I've talked to these guys a lot over the last 6 months, and it's always been an intriguing conversation. The in a nutshell version of Diagnos is they have software more than a technology that if you do an eye scan and get a scan of the back of your iris, there are certain triggers, tags, markers that indicate various things in your body that aren't going to plan. As an example, if you're high in blood sugar and diabetic, your blood vessels in your extremities tend to block up with sugar that's not properly disposed of, which means your eye starts growing more blood vessels. So there's a marker that traditionally you'd go to an ophthalmologist who would look and say, yeah, you've got a little diabetes thing happening, a little retinopathy happening. I know this because I'm in that situation. I'm 50 and I've gone through my lifetime quota of donuts and beer. So here we are as a diabetic. So I know I have to go to the ophthalmologist every 6 months. I've got to wait in a long lineup full of people who are at various different stages of ill. I got to take time off work. I can't just go in and out because they put stuff in your eye that clouds your vision so they can properly see it, which means you got to get someone to drive you home at the end. Right. You spend half the day being a blind man. Let me tell you, this is not my favorite day of the 6 months. So these guys have a situation where you put your eye up to a scanner, it takes a picture, it sends it away to their HQ, and their AI goes through that picture and sends back some indicators of where you might want to go and see a doctor. So it's not going to go and tell you, it's not going to fix you, it's not going to tell you what you've got wrong. It's going to tell you, here are some markers for high blood sugar, you need to go see a doctor immediately because you might be getting towards diabetes. Now, that's the first use that they've broken down on it, and it's approved by the FDA. It's in use by researchers. It's in use by doctors. COVID meant we all started thinking very heavily about telemedicine. This is perfect for that. It allows them to put one machine in a remote area, but not have to have a doctor out there to see to the people on the regular. Recent moves of the company have been to partner up with an optometrist chain in Europe, which would allow them to move the machine into an optometry retail outlet. So while you're off there buying your sunglasses, you can get a quick photo, takes about 2 minutes, and an indicator that there might be something you really need to worry about, either with hypertension, possibly with stroke, diabetes, etc. Those are the three areas that they've gone for soonest, but there's a litany of others. And as they roll this thing out to more and more places, more and more hospitals, more and more researchers are using it, they find more and more things that this technology can detect. So as the AI gets smarter, so too does the company, and gets a potential for more revenue. I really like it. It had a rough time coming out of COVID. Some deals didn't produce the revenue that they needed to or they wanted to. So the company took a little bit of a hit there, and the stock stopped its rise. What it didn't do was drop any meaningful way. This company has been flat like the sole of my shoe for the last 12 months, and it is just waiting on one good quarter of revenues, I think, to start really pushing up to where a US-based version of this would be 5x, 6x, 10x the valuation that we have in Canada.
Chartman, are you looking at a 49 cents or in that ballpark right now?
There we go. Yeah, 50 cents is usually a very big psychological zone. And as Chris said, the stock's just been ranging. We had a big pop around September and October. I think we should also mention, Chris, you mentioned in your articles that, COVID has derailed a lot of stuff, but now we're seeing hospitals re-implement some of those clinics, the news in Saudi Arabia as well. We talked about Colombia and Spain as well. So I think, there's plenty of catalysts to come. and the stock has not taken a dive below 50 cents. It's actually been holding that. And you can see buyers stepped in not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. So we have a really big support zone here at 50 cents. And I think it just needs that catalyst, and this thing can break out and fly. You do have pretty good volume. Average volume is 110,000 shares per day. Today we had 76,000 shares traded, but that's usually a very good liquid market in terms of small caps, anything under $1. So it's a safe one to get in and get out. Chart looks good, and I think the catalyst is there as well.
TK, as you're analyzing this, one thing that I keep in mind is how expensive is it to get this out to the hospitals, or like how expensive is the whole process?
Rob, it's actually funny you bring that up, because I was going to talk about something that probably not a lot of people remember. I don't remember. It was from way back then, but just because of the amount of business history I've read, this is something that reminds me of it. But salesmen back then used to have to go with their technology. For example, Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, used to sell ice cream thingies around to different chains and restaurants and stuff like that. And you'd have to take his technology and showcase it and kind of, oh yeah, this will work for you. It was to improve this and that and that. And they're kind of in the same situation here. Well, it's not a heavy machine. It's a software, which is easier. So cost-wise is not much of a burden. The cost is the admin side, the people making the system work. So if I pull a reference from one of the most efficient systems I think is out there, is Visa. I think it has close to 10,000 employees as of today. But the CEO was once asked, if you were allowed to get rid of most of the clutter, how many people would it take to run your software? And he said about 10 people. The rest is just there to fill space. And software has that advantage where it's not too expensive, as back then, where you had to have individual salesmen going around holding this large piece of equipment, right. trying to broker business. And I find that pretty interesting. I wish it was still there today just to kind of see it, but I think their costs are pretty low. Even if you look at their financials, they don't spend too much money on that, and they do make revenue, although it is pretty volatile right now. They're not making consistent sales, but that's just based off the nature of their business. You have to get not only the people, the location to take the product, you also have to get the physicians to trust the system and its results.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of their business model.
Chris, 2 things. One, are you investing and how much? And secondly, how do you feel about TK referring to when we were young kids as ancient times?
I concur, man. I can barely remember back to those days. That might be the mushrooms. I am investing in Diagnos, have invested in Diagnos. If I see a stock that's dropping without good reason, I want to wait until it hits bottom. If I see a stock that's been at the same level for almost a full year through lots of news and lots of improvements and upgrades, my thinking is I can buy it today for what it would have cost before they did all this cool shit that they've done over the last year. So it seems like I'm buying at a cheap price, right? The price might not be low, but it's not as it should be. It's not as high as it should be. I don't know when the catalyst will come that this thing suddenly takes a sharp upward turn, but I'm really confident that it will, partly because when they've got money in the bank, when they do raise money, it's going to be to acquire something. It's not going to be because they need to pay the bills. It's not going to be because they're concerned that they might run out of cash. And it's not going to be because they've just sold 1,000 of them and they need to make a vast capital outlay. Realistically, the capital outlay's already been made. What they're spending money on now is proving out other uses for the existing technology or buying something that puts that technology in front of more doctors. So that's I want to be on the board of that company. I don't just want to be a shareholder. Like, I want to be riding that train in a much bigger way. If they do raise money, to me, it'll be a big glaring neon sign that something's afoot. And I'd be jumping in on that raise pretty hard. Other
gentlemen, your investment hardcore decision.
I would echo basically what Chris said. This seems like it's a disruption play with the technology. We forgot to mention the mass screening aspect as well, or maybe we did, but there's that aspect too. Mass screening in countries like Mexico, India as well, Colombia, I think were some of the ones they mentioned. I just had a little post here also about the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Health of Saudi Arabia looking at the Diagnos official opening of their AI-assisted screening clinic at one of their hospitals there in Saudi Arabia. So looks like a disruption play. I like the chart as well, holding that zone there. It's one of those where, catalyst is likely to come sooner rather than later.
TK, how much of my money are you spending?
I'm actually going to say 0 on this one. Yeah, I think the general trend right now seems to be positive, but technology can change pretty rapidly. And if the management has the experience to take care of that, which we can't tell now, sadly, business is one of those things where the rear view mirror is usually less cluttered than the windscreen. So I would rather wait and kind of see what happens with management adapting the technology and people accepting it as a method of diagnosis, because health is quite a big, like Chris alluded to, the telemedicine space has become pretty big, but I want to see who are the people actually trying to make a change in the industry, not just catch the wave. And that takes some time to actually happen. So I'd rather wait.
That's
All
fair.
right.
I think that's actually what a lot of people are doing, which explains the share chart, right? Anytime anyone gets out, someone else is like, I'll take it. I think there's a lot of people that are interested enough to take little bits here and there and make sure that they're not left behind if there is a morning where suddenly it pops. But TK's perspective is correct in general for biotech. Like, you want to see the pieces that might not necessarily propel the share price, but the ones that make you say, oh, okay, these guys are serious. I can see where they're going.
Good. All right, very interesting. So I'm not sure a disclaimer is required here, because folks watching this could kind of go either way depending on what they want to listen to, or you can just blame TK personally or Michelle personally. They're not responsible for your decisions either, because you have to do your own research and make your own decisions, because we're just giving you some education. That's all I got to say about that.
Have you noticed I've been doing the Brady Bunch thing today? Whenever Vishal talks, I'm like, oh.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that.
TK.
I know how to sell.
Living upstairs with me, and downstairs, of course, the Zimbabwean and the Australian. We'll see you next time on the, oh, by the way, yes, Diagnos, ADK.V TSX. See you next time on the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable. Cheers.